Support for this podcast is brought to you by our patrons over at patreon.com/Jeffrey Wedig.
Hi, this is Cheryl
and Paul Shard
from the Distant Shores Sailing Adventure TV series, and you are listening to the Shooting the Breeze Sailing Podcast from theescapepods.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Shooting the Breeze Sailing Podcast brought to you by theescapepods.com. I'm your host, Captain Jeffrey Wedig, and this is episode number 204, and it is middle of June 2026. So summer is here, sailing season has started, and I've gotten to go out on the boat sailing exactly once. For any kind of extended sail. I guess I've been out twice just to test the sails out, but basically just sailing around the Northeast River. Unfortunately, we had a little incident down at the club where Miss Nora broke her foot, so that's been kind of holding us back a little bit. Plus, we had a concert to go to up in Hershey last weekend, so that kind of put the kibosh on doing any of that. So, and then this weekend is the Sail 250 in Baltimore. For the Tall Ships and the Blue Angels in celebration of the 250th anniversary of our country. Tall Ships have been making their way. They were in New Orleans a couple weeks back, and then they were in Norfolk. Now they're in Baltimore. And then, reminiscent of 1976 when I was a kid. I was very young, but I remember the Tall Ships being in New York for the bicentennial, which is pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, not a lot of sailing on my end. Hopefully you're all getting out there and, getting it done for me. So anyway, in lieu of actual sailing over the winter, I found a new YouTube channel / couple that is, I would call them an adventure travel couple. It is Kim and Del Hogg. They have a channel called Going the Whole Hog. That's Hogg. And I found them via a whiskey sailing tour in Ireland aboard a small tall ship, I guess. It is a converted and restored trading vessel called the Flying Dutchman. Actually, I think it might have been a herring boat. But anyway, that was how it was introduced to them. They kind of did an hour and 20-minute long film, not really just a YouTube video, but a film of this Irish whiskey tour where they would sail to these different locations in Ireland, and they would visit, like, I guess it was Laphraig, Lavagulin, and a couple other ones where, like, at one of them there's three in a row where you can walk from one to the other and do this like three distilleries tour. So anyway, that was how I kind of got into it. I really loved that film. I think I talked about it on here. And then I was introduced after that to the Bessie Ellen, which is a converted and rehabbed commercial trading vessel native to that area of Scotland and Ireland. It would ply the waters of the UK. It was built in 1904, and they were just celebrating in 2024 the 120th anniversary of this boat. And Captain Nikki Alford, she was a sailor, did kind of the race circuit for a little while, ended up buying Bessie Ellen in the early 2000s and rehabbing her on her own, basically, and has been doing charters and stuff ever since. And so part of this 120th anniversary tour is they're going around the UK, like sailing around it, and they were gonna spend a whole year doing it. And So Kim and Dell joined up to do a bunch of these legs for that tour, and then they did an actual episode where they like interview Captain Nikki and talking about and then kind of doing a history of the Bessie Ellen. And that was a really good series, and I think they're still kind of doing it. They haven't put out the final episodes of that. And then in real life, I interviewed them back in May. They were getting ready to go on another 10-day excursion on the Bessie Ellen with the hopes of getting out to St. Kilda, which is an island that they visited years ago, and that's kind of how they got looped into the whole sailing thing, because they weren't sailors. They were just more, like I said, adventure travelers. They would go to these far-flung places, live there for a while, do a lot of hiking stuff, that sort of thing. And through the one of their videos, they went out to St. Kilda because they're native to that area as well. Some venture sailing, I guess is the name of the place. They talk about it in the episode. Reached out to them, and they're the ones that kind of manage, I guess, or they're like the tourist bureau that kind of funnels travelers to these boats, like the Bessie Ellen and the Flying Dutchman. Reached out to them to use and license some of their footage from St. Kilda, and then they just kind of naturally got into the sailing thing. And now they've actually gone sailing in the Caribbean on another tall ship. They haven't, like most of their sailings on these tall ships, so it's very rare that they actually get onto like a yacht that you and I would go sailing on. But I think they're keen to do that. I think they were talking about going to Italy. They've got things lined up for in the future, definitely for sailing. So I reached out to them because it's just a super interesting story, and especially the Bessie Ellen, like. I would love to do anything on the Bessie Ellen or go on one of these whiskey tours. We talk about it. I'm not a huge whiskey person. I like whiskey in theory. I'm kind of with Kim in this regard, where like it sounds like a great idea, but actually sipping the whiskey is sometimes difficult for me. Anyway, it sounds like a great plan. Great charter if anybody's interested in definitely sailing in Scotland. Just looks wonderful. Scotland, Ireland, UK, whatever. Obviously it's not Caribbean sailing. It's not sitting around in shorts and t-shirt and sandals. You're in your Fowlies and getting rained on half the time, but definitely looks interesting. And so anyway, I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to keep this short just so I can get it done, get it out the door for June here. We're kind of running out of June. I got to get into July. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for July. However, John Schaefer just released a pre-sale for his book, Safety is Second. And so I kind of hinted to him that I would like to get him on the pod, talk about that. I also just been following Matt has made it to the start line and has started his round. I guess it's round the Arctic. I don't know. I was saying earlier around the Arctic Circle, but I think he's going to be higher than the Arctic Circle. But he's doing a solo nonstop trip around the Arctic through the Northwest Passage for raising funds for his ocean research project. And Paul Trammell just posted a thing up on Facebook that he had interviewed Matt last week, so probably while he was holed up in Greenland before he started. But I want to check that out and listen to that, but definitely follow along. Matt's really doing a lot more social media updates this time, kind of in real time. So check out the Ocean Research Project. That's where most everything is getting put up. Also, some of the other Facebook groups like the Offshore Club, they've been posting his updates and that kind of thing. So check out Matt, donate to the Ocean Research Project if you can. But yeah, I'm hoping to get down and get some sailing in the next couple weeks. Hopefully Miss Nora's foot heals itself after surgery, and we can get some sailing in later this summer, and then definitely this fall in the September range. But it's already beyond the solstice, so the days are starting to get shorter already. I haven't even done anything yet. But yeah, lots going on in the background, I guess. hopefully you're getting out there and going sailing. If you got any comments or suggestions, hit me up at theescapepods@gmail.com, and then you can find us on Facebook, on the tweets and the threads. You can find me personally, YouTube's, whatnot, and then you can definitely check out theescapepods.com for the show notes. I'll try and put links in for all of these different charters and things, and get some photos up there so you can check them out. All right, everybody, peace, sail on.
Well, I recall, pal of mine, when I was 45, a bedraggled creature lucky just to count myself alive. Silent and disheveled and my pockets torn asunder, I sank beneath the street lamp full of water, chill and chunder. Here's to long goodbyes, boys, and here's to one another, dearer to the heart and never nearer to the gutter. So grab your ass and oyster glass, and how the hell you been? To the wild winds of misfortune blow us back to town again. Hey!
Cool. All right, I'm here with Kim and Del Hogg, Hogg, and you guys are, I would say, adventure travelers.
I guess that's right.
Yeah, more than any one kind of thing. So this is a sailing podcast, and obviously you've done some sailing that I've found on the interwebs. But you've been adventure traveling for quite some time, so why don't you give us a little bit of background about how, I guess, individually you started traveling, and then how did you start traveling together?
Yeah, so, well, I have been traveling ever since I was like maybe 17 or something. Went on a trip, school trip to Eastern Europe, a history trip. Loved it. And then that just sort of set me off. Went interrailing, and then every chance I could get, we'd be saving up money and going off traveling and to Southeast Asia. Had friends in Australia, and we'd just take advantage of anyone I could go and visit in exciting places or adventures I could do. So yeah, I've been into it for a long time.
I, on the other hand, I never did an awful lot of traveling, but just occasional holidays. But then when I met Kim, she had the travel bug, and
right.
I'm just a yes man. So she puts the ideas out there, and I just say, sure, let's go for it.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
She's the planner in the relationship, and I'm quite happy for it to be that way. And then together we just put it into practice.
Yeah. So we met 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So what were some of your early adventures?
First holiday we went on together was about a week in Transylvania in Romania.
Wow.
In November, I think it was. There was heavy snow everywhere.
Wow.
And we just got around on trains and minibuses and just like crammed in with locals and stuff. So it was a bit of an eye-opener for me, but loved it. And then I think the next year we did an 3-week overland trip in Africa, East Africa. Mm-hmm. Did some safari and that type of thing, and just saw a few different countries. And
which was a precursor to a big trip we did in 2010. So we did a London to Sydney overland trip on a big expedition vehicle with 40 strangers. So we drove.
Wow.
Well, pretty much the whole way. There was a wee flight involved to get from Bali to Darwin,
right.
And camping most of the way, and just quite an adventure. So that was best part of a year, and then we lived in New Zealand and worked there for a year, and yeah, so we did a lot of traveling together, and made the most of working holiday visas and things like that, so we could live and work in different countries and so on.
Right. What's the?
And then
go ahead. No, go ahead. Keep going.
And then we moved to South Korea in 2015, and we spent 3 years there teaching English in a little town on the south coast, about an hour and a half west of Busan, and yeah, that was a bit of a change of pace for us and something different, and we absolutely loved it there.
Yeah.
And then it was after we left Korea in 2018 that we started our blog, Going the Whole Hog, and YouTube, and so that was all kind of born then. So we'd already been traveling a lot, but we decided, well, I wonder if we can turn what we love doing into a living, basically.
Yeah. So what do you attribute the inspiration for all this travel?
Well, what was your inspiration for all the travel, Kim?
Yeah.
I think just a love of it. It just, when I first I'd been studying these places, at school, studying the Cold War or studying Soviet history and things like this, and then to actually go to those countries and those areas and see the architecture and just everything, taste the food, and it was just such an eye opener. I'd only ever been on family holidays in our caravan to France every year, which was good, but it wasn't too different to sort of Scotland,
right?
And so just seeing all these different places, and there's the fact that there's a whole different world out there to what you're used to was just so exciting for me, and I couldn't get enough. Can't get enough.
And I think my love of travel was then generated by us doing those things together. Know? So it was generated by going out there and traveling and doing all these different things. And then once you start doing it, you realize how much you enjoy it, what there is to see. And it's kind of hard to put it down, after that.
Yeah, right. I think for me, like, I don't travel like you guys. Obviously, I'm doing some sailing and stuff, but you guys remind me of like early Globe Trekker, or one of these TV shows we would get through PBS here in the States. But it was like these people that would just fling out, especially to Asia, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen people traveling to, places around here, but then when you get into like East Asia or whatever, like you said, living in Vietnam, like people that actually go there and really immerse themselves in the kind of culture and everything is fascinating to me, because I don't know that I would enjoy it, I think, for a short time, but I don't know that I could live there. Or really, I have a friend who is a sailor, but in his early iteration, kind of around the time you guys were doing your thing early on, like in 2009, he did like a bicycle trip around Vietnam, you know what I mean, like for 6 months or whatever, and he's riding around in the rain or whatever, you know what I mean, just being out in the elements, but he really immersing it. So it's like the difference between I guess a vacation and actually trekking. Going
definitely
around, you know what I mean? So do you have any when you decided you were going to do the whole video YouTube thing, did you have any inspiration, examples of what other people were doing that you were like, hey, we want to get in on that? Or like, how did you set up the whole thing?
Well, when we were in Korea, and we were sort of saving up for those 3 years, wanting to travel on our sort of way back home to Scotland.
Yeah.
And I was just doing research on the countries that we wanted to go to, and I was finding travel blogs, which, 10 years previous, I hadn't really found. It wasn't really out there.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, well, one, these are really useful guides, and it's just a different source of information to the Lonely Planet books, which I would normally use. Yeah. And, there was people doing sort of YouTube vlogging and things like that. And I just started to think, well, actually, we could do this. Why not give this a bash? And I was a travel agent, so for many years, for about 7 years in Scotland and in New Zealand. So I was very used to, organising, planning, building itineraries, even countries that I hadn't been to. I kind of would know a fair bit about just from that job. So I just thought, well, we've got some of those skills, and the rest of it we just had to learn. How do we build a website? How do you get found on Google? All the kind of technical stuff of it.
Yeah, what editing software can we use for making videos? All that kind of different stuff. And
exactly.
As always with these things, you watch some tutorials, you get some gear, you fumble around for a bit, and then over a year or 2 years, you start to like find out what works best, what you're good at. And the type of things that that work for you and work on YouTube. And
I think with YouTube, you were never really that keen to kind of do the video side of it, and I just thought that to have a video side that complements any kind of written guides that we're doing on the blog and whatever just really brings it to life. You know, you've got the practical info and photos, but to see it and to hear what's going on in a place or on a trek or anything like that just really brings it to life. So I was kind of, I guess, sort of pushing doing both of them, which is a lot. It can be a struggle sometimes, and it takes a lot of time.
Well, that was it. I think I was concerned at the time, and I still feel it from time to time, that we were trying to do too much all at once, you know. And sometimes that is the challenge when you're making videos, you're writing detailed guides for your website, you know, you're doing the photography. It's kind of like, it's hard to manage the whole package at once, but you find a way to make it work, you know.
Do you guys feel that the video, especially the video, because you got to really be present in what you're shooting, takes away from the experience or adds to it?
It's a little bit of both, I think. It's interesting because I think for me, so I edit our videos. Del does, we both shoot, but Del's probably shoots more. And then he'll color grade them after. And something that I've found is that sometimes it's in the edit afterwards that I really start to deepen my understanding of something. So, for example, sailing. I'm sure we'll get onto that. But we'd never been sailing. We were complete novices. So actually, it's been in the editing that I've really gotten to grips with the terminology or actually understanding processes. So in a way, the video part of it, sometimes after the fact, can really deepen the appreciation and the understanding of something. In the moment, what would you say?
In the moment, I would say, yes, you're not experiencing it in the same way as if you were just observing things with your eyes, you know? I think most people would agree to that. But I guess for us, we're always aware that we're out there doing it for a purpose. And we've been doing it for years. So I don't think we ever think about it in that way. Or I wish we were kind of like just taking it in. Maybe sometimes. But we also appreciate that we're out there to make a video or to you know, to write about it or to take photos. And so it's never just, we're not there just for pleasure. We're there to like do a job that we want to do. So you've got to keep that mindset. But for sure, it's not pure enjoyment. You're not taking it all in. So for anyone, I think, that's just out there looking to enjoy something, the more time you spend looking through a camera or, you know, looking through your phone, I think it does lessen it somewhat.
In some ways, though, it can deepen your appreciation because you take the time to actually look at the surroundings, look at the landscape, and think, okay, what do I want to convey here to somebody else who's watching? If we want to get across this experience to somebody else, what do we want to put in the frame here, or what do we want to capture, or what sound do we want to record here? So in a way, it can deepen your appreciation, and you kind of take more time to take in the landscape, but also you're constantly thinking about, what is that next shot? If I want to tell a story here, what did I tell before? What's the next shot? So it's definitely a mixture. In that sense, your mind is never just free. You're never just, you know, enjoying the moment and not thinking about that other side of it.
I think for me, it definitely took longer to pick up the many aspects of sailing, because I wasn't really taking in what was going on, and I wasn't in the editing process understanding all the bits and pieces. I was just kind of there with the camera thinking, have I got my framing right? Am I holding this steady? How's the exposure? Where's the light coming from? You know, like, what are people doing in the frame rather than what are they actually doing, and what's the technical specificity of it, you know? So
you weren't able to be hands-on with the training that they were getting. You were kind of more observing what they were getting, and then having to like kind of infiltrate that into your brain and be like, what are they doing?
I think it was not until we spent almost the whole year on board Bessie Ellen, and it was then that we had a bit more time, so we didn't have to shoot all the time and absolutely everything. And once you'd got a bit, there was more chance to kind of get involved in the sailing and start to understand the boat and just being at sea, you know.
Maybe about 6 weeks in or something, we started to understand a lot more ourselves and feel more confident with it.
Right. Well, I think you came along to YouTube probably at a good time, because the sailing, well, for me anyway, the sailing stuff I've been watching since like 2012, 2013. So people were doing it for a while, and then you kind of, as opposed to strapping a GoPro and just following somebody around, now people were actually doing kind of what you're doing, which is like, having the mobile shot, having the drone, having this, being able to piece it together after the fact, where the early vlogs were like, let me put a GoPro on my hat and, go pull the anchor up and put the sails up or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you guys were able to, and especially I think because I know you've been trekking to like Nepal.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine doing that and then carrying all this stuff with you and trying to organize it and keep it going. Like a sailboat's one thing, you can load up and you've got all your things. Having to actually be there, walking around, trekking, very remote, and I got all this gear. I gotta keep it charged.
I think the hardest part actually is the packing before the trip.
Before the trip, yeah.
It's like it's making sure you've got all the things that you need, and
right,
and then making sure you've got the space in your bag. Once you're doing like a long trek like that, the day-to-day, everything's kind of got its place. You know that it came out of the bag. It's got to go back in the bag. And after like the first couple of days as well, you start to realize, I don't need that as much.
Right.
These are the things that I absolutely have to use 20 times a day. So keep that handy.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a bit more like second nature.
It definitely adds extra weight to your pack, though.
Oh.
Yes.
Del, it's just extra training for you, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I don't mind a heavy pack. I always just think of it as like, it's good for my physical conditioning. So go for it. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how you got into that kind of travel, because now you're shifting away from living somewhere and you're transitioning away from like vacation or being on a big charter kind of thing. You're just out there, like I said, kind of on your own, doing your own thing, and there's a whole big physical aspect to that.
Yeah, well, I think so. We had about our last 6 months in Korea. We were just getting our website up and running, and we were doing kind of local travel stuff around South Korea. We went to Japan, we went to Taiwan, so kind of local travel and things like that. Yeah. And then we did about 6 months after we left South Korea, where we went to Mongolia, Central Asia. We went back to Nepal. Wow! And that's when we were really doing a lot of the multi-day trekking. Carrying everything in the bag. Right. And at that point, we had way heavier gear than we have now. Quite a ridiculous tripod compared to what we've got now, and various bits and pieces. So it certainly wasn't fine-tuned at that stage.
Yeah.
But I think it was at that point that we started to get into the more proper, like outdoorsy, remote adventure kind of travel, and moved away from like just visiting cities or nice tourist attractions or things like that.
Right.
And so that kind of gave us a taste of that, and we realized this is the angle we want to go down. This is the type of thing that we enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's trekking or whether it's getting a four-wheel drive camper van and getting out onto mountain roads and places like Oman and Georgia. Right. Things. So I think that gave us the inspiration to kind of be more adventurous and do adventurous things.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we spent 2018. So it's been 8 years now. So I think the first sort of 4 years we were very nomadic, I guess. We were just sort of moving around a lot, lots of different places, figuring out how to make it work with traveling and the blog and YouTube, and learning that for everything you shot and everything you wanted to do, it would take at least 3 times as long to actually produce the work. So we've just had a constant backlog pretty much ever since we started. And so we were moving around a lot. We spent a couple of years in Georgia in the Caucasus region.
Yeah.
During the COVID years. Okay. So we would get a base for a wee while, maybe in Tbilisi or something like that, rent a place, and then we would, go off all summer hiking and things like that. So we were doing that a lot, and then we came back to Scotland in 2022 and just thought, do you know what we want to see and do more in our own country. We've done all this trekking and stuff elsewhere, and we would meet people wherever we were in the world. We would say, oh yeah, we did the West Highland Way, or we've been to this place, and we were thinking, oh, we've not even done that. Maybe we should go home and actually do these things. So the last 4 years we've been a bit more kind of Scotland based. Okay. We've still been sort of moving around and just staying with friends and family, or going off in our tent and wild camping and things like that until last year. So last year we got a little base of our own. We got a tiny house built, and we do now have our own little base, and we've got a camper van now. So we're semi-settled, so we have at least our own place to go back to, and a nice editing system, a nice big monitor to do all this, but still getting out and doing. And then, of course, the sailing has become a thing over the last few years. So that's more and more something that we are enjoying, and that, yes, you're seeing popping up on our YouTube and things like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, during those, like, especially COVID, like, I can't even imagine going through that. Well, I could imagine being remote, I guess, away from people probably was a little... easier to take, I guess, but if you're like really a nomad, like you don't have a home base and you are in these, especially for an American, being in the middle of the Caucasus probably wouldn't be the the safest place for me, or whatever. I don't know how it would go. How did it feel going through all that?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay, actually. We were in Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, until early July in 2020. So we basically arrived there at the start of March, and then the borders got shut a week later. Yeah. But we'd had Airbnbs booked in Tbilisi for a period of 3 months. Oh, wow. So we had accommodation, and I guess it was just much like anywhere, bars shut down, all the restaurants shut down. But you could still go out and get your groceries. You could still go out for a walk around the city, and we just had lots of work to do on the laptop. So we were editing our Nepal trekking videos at the time and stuff like that. So it just we were kind of in the apartment. We would go out sometimes. We would go to the shops, but there wasn't just much happening. But it wasn't too bad for us because we had lots to do. And then in the summer, we kind of went up into the mountains, and that was quite good for us because there was no other people in the country, or very few. Yeah. So we were doing, multi-day treks across mountain passes and meeting 5 people in 5 days or something.
The borders were closed for about a year and a half. So basically there was no, we'd just gotten in, and then there was nobody able to come in from the outside. So we would, be staying in guest houses in the mountains and just have a proper opportunity to speak to people and spend time with them, because it wasn't very busy, and we had the trails to ourselves. And it was actually, I think we got pretty lucky. And with Georgia, you can, for a lot of passport holders, you can go in visa free for a year. Oh, so we basically planned on going anyway before COVID had happened. That was our plan, to be there for about a year or whatever. It turned into about 2, but that was fine.
Well, that's good. I could just my brain goes to, oh my God, I'm stuck in this foreign place and I can't get out.
No, I think it actually was probably the best thing, because had we been at home, we would have been in my mum and dad's house, where we ended up staying by default, and we would have been not allowed out, and it probably would have been more trying the case for all of us. So I think it worked out pretty well for us in the end.
Because we went, my wife and I got married late 2019, and then we went to U.S. Virgin Islands for our honeymoon in March, and we got there on Sunday. By Tuesday, they start closing things, and then by the end of the week, nobody knew anything. Are we going to be stuck here? Are they going to let us fly out of here? What's nobody knows what's happening. And at the time, I'm like, well, I don't know what you do. We were staying at a timeshare through our parents, which we can't afford to stay more than a week. You know what I mean? What are we gonna do? And then it kind of worked itself out from there. But I had friends who were sailing at the time, got stuck in Dominica for 6 months, really. Wow. Not that they couldn't leave, but they're like, we're here. They're not kicking us out. I think we're just gonna stay here and see what happens.
Yeah, when you don't know what's happening in the world, if you've got an okay situation going on, why not just roll with it?
And then I interviewed after the fact a couple, and they were called Sailing Trance, and they did a around the world trip, and it just so happened to same thing. They got stuck on like the west coast of the U.S. into Alaska area in the middle of the heavy part of COVID. And they were getting into like as soon as travel opened up a little bit, they were able to get into some of these parks that any other time you'd have to be on a 3-month waiting list to visit, like these national parks and things. So they were just like, hey,
exactly.
We're here, we're gonna do it, so it worked out for them. So tell me about sailing. Like, what was your first kind of exposure to it? And then, as a means of travel, but some of these specific boats that you were on.
So we had never been sailing. We had never really even thought about sailing. It's not a world, we don't know anyone that is a sailor or has a boat. It's just alien to us.
Wow.
It was. And then basically we just got an email one day from a company called Venture Sail, who are essentially a kind of booking agent here in the UK. Okay. They have a fleet of different boats, a lot of kind of tall ships or interesting yachts and things like this. And they wanted to license some of our footage from St Kilda, which is a remote island on the west coast of Scotland, an uninhabited island. Yeah. So they'd found our St Kilda video on YouTube, and they wanted to license some of our footage for marketing some of their sailboats that go there. Right. And then realised that we had a travel blog, and basically they invited us on and said, would you like to come and do a sailing trip, and you can make a video and write about it. And we were like, wow, this looks cool. And they suggested this boat, Bessie Ellen. She is an old trading ketch, wooden, from 1904. Right. And we just looked at these pictures and were like, wow, this is even a thing. You can do this. You can be a guest on a beautiful old boat like this and go sailing around the Scottish Islands. This is incredible. So we said, yeah, absolutely, sign us up. So we spent a week. It was a trip out of Oban on the west coast of Scotland, and it was just incredible. The summer of, was it 2023?
Yes.
Yeah. Summer of 2023. Spent a week on board. The boat was absolutely beautiful. Just this heritage masterpiece, basically. Everywhere we looked was just an interesting detail, so much character. The hospitality on board was fabulous. So the owner of the boat and the skipper is a woman called Nikki Alford. So she's had the boat for about, she bought her in 2000 as a hulk and basically restored her, and so she's been doing charter trips on her since 2000. She's now got her little dog Bracken, who's on board as well, and he spots the dolphins, sniffs out the dolphins before any of us humans do. So you've got an alarm bell whenever there's something interesting to see, and it was just incredible. We had, I think, no idea what to really expect, and we were filming that trip as well. So we made about, I think it's a 90-minute kind of ambient sailing film, basically, of the experience. And I mean, like you were saying earlier, we had no idea what these words were. It was like a whole new language, a halyard, a sheet. Like, what are all of these things? We had absolutely no idea. So we probably overshot way too much because we didn't know when the action was going to happen. We didn't know where we should be for the action to happen. We were getting involved with the sailing as well, but
there was all the stuff about the life on board, which is more familiar to us, capturing the atmosphere in the saloon, and people relaxing on deck or going for a walk on an island or something like that. So there was all those bits interspersed between the sailing, which was more familiar to us as well. And as far as the sailing went, it was just like, right, just capture what you can. Whatever looks good, get it. So that was our first experience of sailing, really, and we loved it. And then it was the next year, 2024, that we were speaking to Nikki, and she was doing this round Britain tour to mark the 120th anniversary of the boat.
Right.
And she was looking for people to come on board and document it, essentially.
Right.
And we got talking to her, and in the end we kind of decided, let's just do the whole thing with you.
Yeah.
So she put us on our STCW, which was like the kind of basic training for being at sea. So we went and did that in Glasgow for a week, which was a bit of an eye opener, like doing firefighting and going into a burning building. Doing all the kind of like, jumping in the pool and doing all your flotation stuff, and so that was quite interesting. And then we went down the shipyards before she left and captured all the pre-season stuff, getting the boat ready, and then we were there for her kind of setting sail for our round Britain trip, and then we stayed on board for most of the season, had a couple of breaks, but that was when we kind of, I guess, really got into sailing and got into her as a boat as well. Right. So that's now it's kind of like it feels like another home for us going on that boat. Last year we went to Norway with her, did our own trekking up in the Arctic Circle in Norway, and then sailed back with her because she was doing trips over there last summer. And we're going on another trip with her just in a few weeks as well on the west coast of Scotland. It's kind of like it's an ever present now for us, going on that boat as well as others.
Well, I think my introduction to you guys was the Whisky Tour on the Flying Dutchman. And that is kind of like a fully formed film, I guess. So I was kind of really surprised, like the quality, like it was almost like a real film that you were going to go see. And I'm not a huge whiskey drinker, but I do like the occasional dram, I guess. I have a friend who always talked about Lava Gulin, so that might even be, why it came up. You know how Facebook listens to everything. And suddenly there's this like whiskey tour by sail. Wait a minute, this is awesome.
Two passions brought together.
Well, and that's what it seemed like to me, because it's not necessarily sailing people that are going to look for sailing. They were more, it seemed like some of the people on board were more about the whiskey tour and then kind of fell into the sailing. So how did that come about? Because you had already been on the Bessie Ellen at that point, right?
Yes,
so the Flying Dutchman is she's also part of the venture sail fleet. So basically again, all of our sailing is basically been to do with this venture sail, which is great because they have a number of different boats. So it means that we've managed to experience various different boats while working with them. So Flying Dutchman is another historic boat. I think she's from 1907. So she was originally a Dutch herring drifter, and now she does charter trips, and she does quite a few of these whiskey sailing trips throughout the year. So I mean, there's lots of whiskey distilleries on islands in Scotland. So I mean, it's just a given. What better way to go and visit these distilleries than by a sailboat? So I have to admit, I'm not actually a whiskey drinker, which I feel like as a Scot is a terrible thing to say. And I wish I liked whiskey because I really enjoy everything about it, around it, apart from the actual taste. But you are into your whiskey. You do like it.
I enjoy whiskey. I don't drink it as much as I did when I was younger, but I still enjoy it. And I think the thing with that trip as well, it was great because there were so many people who were really into their whiskey on it. There were some who were there for the sailing, some who were there for just the whiskey, and some there for a bit of both. And then those there just for the whiskey were then falling in love with the sailing as well. But it is a great way to combine those two activities, absolutely. And on that boat in particular, it's owned by a Dutchman, Aries, and he's a really good captain. He's basically like an honorary Scot, I think, as well, because he knows so much about that area, so much about the whiskey, and he does really, really good tours. So we were lucky to be on board that ship. But she was a pleasure to sail on. Really beautiful little boat, comfortable, and the Scottish Islands are a great place to sail around. And if you're doing it with whiskey at the same time, I mean, what's not to like? You know?
So the Flying Dutchman Whisky Tour. So you had been sailing for? Did you do that whole year before that, or on Bessie Ellen? Yeah. So you kind of.
So we.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we'd spent about well, a good chunk. By that point, we'd probably been sailing for about 8 months or something with Bessie Ellen, and learned a lot more. So we understood more, and it was interesting when you said about how that was what you found, and you thought, oh, this is like an actual film, because versus maybe what you were saying about early sailing videos, or how some people shoot sailing videos with a GoPro on their head doing the actions. Maybe that's because they're coming at it from a sailor's perspective. They know what they're doing, and they do interesting things. We very much approached it, I guess, from our background with shooting, say, ambient hiking films, and framing things nicely, or getting quiet little scenes, coming at it more from a storytelling point of view. If you were on this boat, what would the experience be like? Almost like a kind of fly on the wall type thing, rather than it being a sort of talking to the camera vlog style approach. And our very first Bessie Ellen film from the first trip is also very similar to the Flying Dutchman one. It's about 90 minutes long. It's quite immersive and ambient, and just trying to tell the story of what the experience is like. And I guess, it's nice to hear that that's how you found it, and you were kind of surprised of the kind of the different style of it, I suppose, and approaching. Showing sailing from a different side.
I think what struck me about it, and especially that one, the Flying Dutchman one, but also the Bessie Ellen one, is you guys captured a real sense of the people on board, and kind of not necessarily their personalities, but how everybody interacted. And you got, especially with the Bessie Ellen, like I feel like I know Captain Nikki.
Yeah.
And even some of her mannerisms where I'm like, oh, she's gonna turn around and go, what? Oh, wait.
Exactly. You spent 8 months filming somebody and something and this boat and the way that things work in it, and you do get a very deep understanding of what their mannerisms are going to be, how they're going to react to something, what they're going to do here.
She's good in front of the camera, Nikki, as well. She can kind of. She gets on with things, and she can treat it as if it's not there, which is the best. The best thing you can ask for in that kind of situation. So.
Well, and the flip side of that is we don't get a whole lot of you in some of that.
No, that's true. Which was something that was different for us. Doing that kind of more kind of like documentary style, filming others. Mm-hmm. And rather than us being one of the kind of main subjects of the video, so that was a bit of a departure for us, but interesting to do.
Yeah, the kind of the year in the life of Bessie Ellen, the 120th anniversary videos, which is an ongoing project for us. We shot for 8 months, and I think we've got maybe over 20 videos out so far, but it's still an ongoing project. There will still be a lot more coming out on YouTube, interspersed with whatever else we're up to. But it was a bit different for us. We'd never really shot that kind of more, almost trying to capture it as a documentary, where it's not about us. It's about the people involved with the boat. It's about the places that she goes. It's about the processes, and it's about how do you maintain an old ship like this. And it was a lot of it was very new to us, like not only the sailing, but how do you maintain and look after a boat like this. And it was fascinating from start to end, because we were in the shipyard. She goes into the shipyard in Gloucester Docks over winter, and there's a really good shipyard there called Nielsen's, and they're very they're used to working on old ships like that, so they're very skilled at it. And for us to kind of learn about that side of it that you don't see as a guest on a sailing trip was really fascinating, and to kind of capture and share these processes. So things like mending a sail or caulking a deck, or at the very start of the season there was a bridge that was broken, and so Bessie Ellen was not going to be able to get under this bridge because it wasn't going to lift. So 5 days before the guests are joining, they had to get a crane, take her 2 masts out.
Oh man.
boat her under the bridge,
Yeah.
get the crane to the other side, and restep her mast. I mean, it was a huge stress.
Process.
Completely de-rig and then rig up
Yeah.
again in the space of a few days. You know, something that had been ongoing for weeks beforehand to get the boat ready for the season.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable, really.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
In the end, it was all done with skill and efficiency, and you know, without too much stress. And,
just to be able to capture that and to witness that and to build our understanding of, well, how does a ship actually work? Like, what are all these elements of it, and how do they fit together? Was amazing. And it's not, you know, things like caulking a deck. Nikki, we arrived in Troon after sailing up the Irish Sea, our first ever passage, 2 days at sea I think it was, and there was some deck leak, so she gets out the tar, she gets out the oakum, she just starts caulking the deck, she just gets on with things, and I'm trying to keep up with filming it while understanding what's going on. And I'm not necessarily interested in learning how to do it myself, but I'm really interested in learning about the process and deepening the understanding of how everything works. And it was very interesting to be able to make a video about that and share that. But you're right, it's not about us. We're hardly ever in it, especially the ones from that kind of year. I think something like the Flying Dutchman one and the very first Bessie Ellen, we're in it a little bit more. We try to include ourselves in it a bit more. So
So what was your favorite whiskey? I kind of skipped over that.
Oh, well, Lagavulin is always a favourite, I have to say. So we went to Isla, and there's like a 3 distilleries path, which is quite common for, well, anyone visiting the island, but also people visiting there by boat. So you can either get dropped off at Ardbeg or Port Ellen and do it one way or the other. And you can visit Ardbeg, Lagavulin and Lefroy. So 3 of the kind of like main whiskies from the island. I mean, Lagavulin is hard to beat.
I really enjoy the smell of the peaty Isla whiskies. It's definitely my favourite smell. Like I said, not a fan of the taste. It just burns, but that's the best smell for me.
But actually, we went to the Tobermory distillery on the Isle of Mull. And I was quite surprised by the quality of the whiskies there. I enjoyed them a lot. They had like two different styles, one that was a more kind of a mellow style and one that was a more peaty style, and both were excellent, and it was a good tour as well, so I enjoyed them.
We had 3 Dutch guys with us on that trip, and one of them in particular was really into his whiskey, like a proper whiskey aficionado, and I think for me it was his enthusiasm that was really rubbing off on me as well. Like, I was getting excited about the whiskey because he was so excited about it.
It came with a substantial budget for buying whiskey as well. And then generously shared some of it, you know, back.
And I know, and I think in 2 weeks' time he's back on another Scottish whiskey sailing tour.
There you go.
Maybe we'll see them again.
Like whiskey for me is like motorcycles. Like I love motorcycles. I love looking at motorcycles. I love watching them get built. I love people that travel on motorcycles. Like one of my favorite films is the Long Way Round with Ewan McGregor, and he did the Long Way Round, up, down, wherever, you know, in the past bunch of years. But I will not get on a motorcycle. I will not own a motorcycle.
Just living vicariously through everyone else's motorcycle adventures.
Exactly, totally. So
that's like me with whiskey.
Totally. And then so you had a whole video about Nikki and the boat and the 120th anniversary of that boat, kind of a history. So to me, that's, you know, that boat has been plying those waters since 1904, and it took somebody like the caliber of Nikki to bring that thing to life again. Talk about that, like your documenting of that whole process.
So obviously after spending some time on this boat, I think our first week on board, when we first went on, you know, as complete newbies to sailing, it was just overwhelming, and you're thinking, this is amazing, this is such a cool experience, such a beautiful boat, but the understanding didn't really go much deeper than that. And when the following year, when we started sort of documenting from the shipyard into the first starting of the sailing and being on board, the more that we understood what goes into keeping a boat like Bessie Ellen sailing,
yeah.
and the history of her,
Yeah.
I think the more special she really seemed and is, you know, the more unique she is.
Yeah.
She is literally the last of her kind that is
Right.
still sailing. She's 1904. She started trading 1907
Yeah.
till 1947.
Yeah.
So she was under the Chichester family, and you know, trading cargoes around the UK,
Right.
mostly around sort of Bristol Channel and that area.
Yeah.
And then as that sort of era of wooden sailboats, of cargo trade, it wasn't viable anymore. So she was sold to a Danish guy, Christian Muller, and he sailed her over to Denmark, and then she was working for another kind of 30 years in Denmark, just going sort of from harbour to harbour. So she was delivering stones and things like that.
Right.
So she had a bit of a kinder life for those 30 years. And yeah, wooden boats were still a thing in Denmark, whereas it really wasn't it wasn't viable in the UK anymore. So she was working up until I think the late 70s. She was finally laid up. And Nikki came along she'd seen her already on trips to Denmark, and came along and bought her in 2000, and she was just pretty much a hulk.
I mean, she'd been kept from degrading. So, you know, between the late 70s and 2000, she was owned by a few guys who'd covered her and made sure that, like, she wasn't gonna, you know,
dry rot.
Yeah, exactly. So she was kept in salvageable condition, I think, until the point that Nikki came along and started to work on her and repair her and restore her. Yeah.
So Nikki's been she's been a seafarer all her life, basically. She must be about 57 now, and I think since she was a teenager, she's been at sea. She's worked at sea. She's done big trips, you know, sailing a wooden boat from New Zealand back to Europe, and sailing a Chinese junk boat from China to Oman, and various things, all these things. So she had a lot of experience and a love of boats, and she took on this project. I've never really, I don't think I've met anyone quite like Nikki. She is a force of nature and can just do anything and everything seemingly with ease, and just gets on with stuff. You know, she is she's not a faffer. She just gets on with stuff, and whether it's cooking up an absolute feast in the galley to serve to everyone on board, or it is, you know, donning some oilskins and getting up the scaffolding to tar the hull. She just jumps in and gets everything done. And I think you need someone like that to take on a project like, you know, restoring a 120-year-old wooden boat, basically. So and
maintaining it as well. I mean, the effort that goes into keeping that boat seaworthy, year on year and throughout the year, it's quite incredible.
Well, believe me, I've seen enough people struggle just trying to keep 20-year-old boats going.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a lot. And so I think the more that we kind of saw that side of things, the deeper our appreciation for how special this boat is, and just how special the people that are keeping her going, Nikki, and, you know, the shipwrights and the volunteers that come along throughout winter and help with just the constant every year, you know, everything is needing sanded down and varnished again, or little bits are needing rebuilt. It's just
she has
incredible.
She has a great kind of loyal regular base of customers as well.
You
know, there's some of the trips that we've been on where maybe 10 out of 12 people are returning guests, and some of them have been, you know, 7-8 times. So I think that kind of like speaks to the quality of the boat. It speaks to Nikki and the type of experience that she gives to guests as well. She's always super keen to get them involved in absolutely every aspect that they can, you know. She says to the crew, you know, it's just like, if I see you touching a rope, you know, you get the guests to do that, you know. You instruct them, you tell them what to do, you get them involved, you know. And I think that's one of the things, that and Nikki's food, and the destinations. Those are all things that keep people coming back year on year.
So I think from a kind of filming perspective and a documenting a year in the life of the boat, we were sort of partway through. I think we were up in Ullapool at the time. We had maybe a 3-day changeover, and I was thinking about the story, and I was thinking we really need to put this out there. We need to sit down and Nikki, just tell us the boat's history, tell us your story, and it's turned into kind of three videos, sort of covering the early years, the Danish years, and then Nikki and her history and how she came to be with Bessie Ellen. And I went down a total rabbit hole. All the details that she was telling me, I was thinking, well, I need to try and find what can I be finding to illustrate this, So I was getting images of random little museums down in the southwest of England, and finding old registers from the Lloyd's Register with the blueprints for the boat and the cargo lists, and some stuff that Nikki had as well, old photos. But I think most of her stuff is in a shipping container in Cornwall. It wasn't easily accessible to get these documents, but it was just fascinating to come across these pictures, old photographs of the original captain and his family, and these people that she was talking about, and also Nikki's story as well. Sort of, she's like, "Oh, my cousin has sent me this picture that she found, of her on the bowsprit as a 17-year-old or whatever." So I found that very exciting to come across all this historical footage and photos and documents that were kind of illustrating the story that she was telling.
Yeah, it's nice to have it all in one place. You know what I mean? Not a mishmash of everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On a separate note, I remember that afternoon being quite challenging from an audio perspective, because it was a gloomy day, and every so often there would be an absolute downpour. So the rain was just like drumming on the deck, above us, and we had to just stop for 5 minutes and wait until that kind of became slightly less before we could continue the conversation.
The dog, he was out for a long walk, but he came back, and of course he's interrupting and getting his puddles, and there was a new crew member was arriving, so there was. I think we were filming for like 4 or 5 hours or something, but Nikki's great at just, she's a good storyteller, and she's quite comfortable at just sitting down and talking, and I really appreciated that. So we're going back on Bessie Ellen in a couple of weeks. We're doing a 10-day trip from Mallaig on the west coast, hopefully out to St Kilda, and the Outer Hebrides, and I think we'll sit down with her again and get her to talk some more.
I think she's amazing. Like, just the dedication, because I mean that's her life. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It is. It's been her home for the last 26 years. Like, she lives on board, and it's such a huge part of her life, and. She keeps talking about retiring someday, but it'll be interesting to see if she can properly give up the boat and give up sailing. Maybe she'll always have a wee boat.
Right, for sure. So talk a little bit about the environment that you're in when you're sailing, because the west coast of Scotland and the British Isles are not the Caribbean. They're not, you're definitely exposed to, I would think, definitely wet and chilly weather, but you probably have your fair share of bad weather as well. You know what I mean? How did you?
Well, we've now experienced sailing in the Caribbean, because we were out there last January on a couple of different boats. So Blue Clipper, who's also a tall ship, a steel tall ship, and a classic yacht called Kronos. So we spent about a month sailing St Vincent, Grenadines, Grenada area, and St Lucia. So we have experienced Caribbean sailing versus Scotland sailing. They are quite different. One of the main things was how amazing it was to be able to be just sailing in your shorts and t-shirts and watching the stars and it being warm and lovely. I think you don't get that in
2 weeks on Kronos, I never had shoes on.
You definitely need your waterproofs in Scotland. But I think the west coast of Scotland in particular, the east coast is a different kettle of fish, but the west coast of Scotland is fantastic for sailing, and there's actually a really big sailing culture here. There's loads of marinas, there's loads of little ports, lots of people have their own small yachts, and yes, the weather can be challenging, but I think one of the good things is there's always somewhere to hide.
Yeah.
So there's always great little spots where you can either be on a mooring ball or anchor. There's lots of marinas, and the scenery is just absolutely spectacular. And a lot of variety and just beautiful islands with white sandy beaches and lots of uninhabited islands, which of course when you've got a sailing boat it's perfect. You can go and explore them.
And when the sun comes out it can be glorious, particularly on some of those white sand beaches, and people do say it's like the Caribbean. The water's not as warm, absolutely, but it is beautiful to look at and great to experience. And sometimes the wind does die away, and the water can be like glass. I mean, not great for sailing, of course, but if you're just drifting along gently under motor or even with the tide, that can also be a nice experience. So there's so much variety on the west coast of Scotland, and so much that it offers. If you've got your wet weather gear and you're prepared for a bit of tough conditions, it's very rewarding.
And there is no Bessie Ellen, there's no protection from the elements. If you're at the helm, she doesn't have autopilot or anything, so someone is always at the helm, and you're just out there in the elements. I think you were, when we came up from the Irish Sea and we were going into Arran, and there was a gale blowing, and you were at the helm, just like daggers in your face.
Needles, basically going straight into the wind. It's icy cold needles pelting me in the face.
But she's got a very cozy saloon, and she's got heating, so you can warm up and get cozy after. But it's not Caribbean sailing, that's for sure. But I think the landscape and the scenery it's just stunning. And you've got so many islands. You've got this really rugged coastline, and then you've also got all the Inner Hebridean islands, the Outer Hebrides, and St Kilda, which is sort of 50 miles west of the Outer Hebrides. So you're just right out in the Atlantic. So for boats that do make it out there, which hopefully we will in a couple of weeks, it's just an incredible experience. And then all the bird life and marine life, you see dolphins all the time. We've seen minke whale, and loads of bird life, puffins and gannets, and it's fabulous sailing here.
I think it's an underrated sailing area for sure. Everybody goes to the Med, or everybody goes to the Caribbean, or everybody goes to even like the Baltic Sea, Norway and Sweden and stuff like that, the archipelagos up there. It's definitely like you said, the landscape. I don't know. I thought I was Irish for a hot second before I did a DNA test. I'm definitely Baltic. I come from the white pasty people, 100 miles from the Baltic. But something about the landscape of Ireland and that whole Scotland, the coast, just calls out to me, I guess. You know what I mean? Which is another reason why I found that Dutchman movie so enthralling. You know what I mean?
And I mean we're from Scotland, and we love to travel. We've been to so many places around the world, but traveling in Scotland, especially on the west coast, is just as exciting for me as anywhere else. And I could just keep. Well, we're here right now. We're in the Outer Hebrides right now in our camper van, and we'll be sailing again. We've just been out actually on a yacht called Noonmark. We sailed from the Clyde area, so just sort of the coast of Glasgow up to Oban last week, and that was a bit different for us. And there's always, even if you're in similar waters to where you've been before, there's always a different island, and somewhere different to anchor. And it's definitely, it's not underrated. Like, people in Scotland know about it, or people in the UK know that it's like one of the best places for sailing. But maybe worldwide it needs to be better known.
I mean, of course, it's nice to be warm. You can see what the attraction of the Med or the Caribbean is. And that goes without saying. But Scotland, west coast of Scotland in particular, is special in its own way. You have maybe a Med trip, and then you have maybe a Scotland trip. It's good to have both of those things.
There's a couple YouTube sailing channels that have, because I definitely recognize Tobermory as a spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not
the bulk. You know, there's maybe 3 channels I can think of that have been like, one was in Belfast for a while and did that whole kind of loop, and then another one, Drake Paragon, they would go to Iceland and back, and you know, end up in that area. So yeah, it's definitely something I would like to go on vacation there.
Yeah, well, we can recommend it, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Can recommend anyone looking for a Scottish sailing trip, Bessie Ellen for sure, and of course the Flying Dutchman, especially if you combine it with one of those whiskey trips. Definitely recommend it.
Yeah. So, talk about what you're into now, because you're on a van. Have you been doing any overlanding in your mobile home there?
So we got the van. So we moved. Basically, we got this tiny house built last year, and we bought a small plot of land up in the very far north of Scotland, near Thurso, so northeast. Yeah. And we've had our tiny house. We've plonked it on there, and so we thought, right, well, we live in the middle of nowhere now. We're going to need a vehicle, and us being who we are, that vehicle should be a camper van so that we can also adventure in it. But actually we've not really used it much until now. So
apart from our daily vehicle or our house moving vehicle or our rubbish dump or whatever it was.
The utilitarian vehicle.
Exactly. So now for the last week it's finally been an adventure vehicle. So
that's good.
We've been exploring the Isle of Skye last week, where we've been a few times before, but we were trying to visit some places we hadn't been to, and now we've got a few friends on the Isle of Uist, so we're out here for the next sort of 10 days, and then we sail the ferry back to the mainland, where we'll be joining Bessie Ellen for this 10-day sailing trip. So nice. I guess this year it's sort of a mixture of some more sailing. So we've just been on this little yacht, which was very different to us, having only ever been on tall ships or bigger ships. We were on I don't know if it means anything to you, it didn't to us, but she is a Swan 56. So I think there was only ever 46 of them made. I think she's the only one that you can charter. So she's a very nice boat, lovely teak deck, sailed. We were going 10 knots, heeled over, super comfortable. But that was a different experience for us. So that we've got Bessie Ellen. We'll be doing another sailing trip in Italy in September. Wow. On another historic tall ship, a brigantine, I think it is. She's called Florette. I think she's from 1930s, and she looks absolutely gorgeous. So she's got these kind of square sails and stuff as well, and it's going to be an interesting trip because it's a combo of the two things that we probably enjoy most. So hiking and sailing. So it's a hiking and sailing trip in the Aeolian Islands, so where Stromboli is, and so every day a bit of sailing, a bit of hiking, and it's also it's a family run boat, and they've got a dog on board. So anytime there's a dog on board, so this year a sprinkling of sailing trips, a sprinkling of camper van trips in Scotland, and also just still settling in and enjoying our tiny home. We've mostly been there over winter, which in the far north of Scotland, we get about 4 hours of daylight. So it'll be nice to head back there in the summer and experience summer where it's daylight from 3 a.m. till 11 o'clock at night. Like that, so.
No, it's not good. It's not great for your sleep though.
You've got an eye mask for that.
Right. So now that it seems like you're invested in the sailing. I mean, have you been ingratiating yourself in the sailing community, following anybody in like the YouTube space, or any of that sort of thing?
I think the main one, it's a huge channel, but the main one that I've been watching for a while is Sailing La Vagabond. I don't know if you know them. Yeah. So I think they're a pretty huge channel. So I've been watching them for a while, and there's a few others that have kind of popped up, and the Tally Ho guy. So watched a bit of him, and obviously that's kind of an interesting restoration project. And you don't really Dell doesn't really watch YouTube, I have to say, which is quite funny for somebody who makes videos for it, but I'm not a huge YouTube person. But it's
I don't. I more listen to podcasts and read. So that's my
So if you have any good sailing channels you would
yeah.
recommend, then yes.
Definitely.
I think I'm definitely drawn to, perhaps if it's a really interesting destination, otherwise something that is made well. I do appreciate content that is you know, maybe has some good audio or some good visuals, and I think I quite like that about Sailing La Vagabond. They often have these nice little animations that they bring to it and sort of explain the sailing that way and so on, and which is quite good. So
what I'll say is, have you thought about at all, because you have a very unique in to the whole sailing world, but I think maybe writing some articles for some magazines would probably be a good exposure for you, because I think you would be able to do it very well, just having seen some of the stuff you've done, and like I said, the unique in that you've had, you know what I mean, because you're not necessarily a sailor, you haven't come from the sailing world, you know what I mean. Because I would definitely be interested in reading a feature, you know what I mean. But yeah, 59 North, my friend Andy, we both started podcasting right around the same time. He was at it a little more earlier than I was. And then he's in the business. So he started his own charter business at 59north.com. He's got 2 boats. He had a Swan 56, I think it was, for a couple of years. And now he has his original boat is a Swan 48. Named Eastbjorn, and that I think hangs out in like Norwegian, Sweden. Like he's based in Sweden. He's an American, but he married a Swedish girl, and now they have a family in Sweden. So I think Eastbjorn lives that way, and then he's got a 65-foot like former kind of race boat that they've rehabbed into a charter boat, and that's in the Pacific. But he's had a podcast called On the Wind forever, and he's got help people come in and do it, different things. And the other big sailing channel besides La Vagabond is Sailing Delos. They started early 2011-ish, I guess. And, a lot of people gave them crap because they're all running around naked in their 20s or whatever for a while, But what they did do is they combined up with Andy and 59 North in 2018, and they went to Svalbard on Eastbjorn. And they did a 2-week, I think it's about a 2-week trip around Svalbard, and they made a documentary out of it called 80 Degrees North. Nice. And it's like a 5-part buy what you want, pay what you want kind of scheme. Instead of releasing it to YouTube or whatever, they kind of went that way with it. So I guess you just Google 80 Degrees North and it'll show up. But it's some stunning videos, and you know what I mean? Like you said about whales, they found a pod of white whales that, and then they had somebody dipping a microphone in the water to hear it as you're seeing it, kind of thing. And they have a grizzly encounter, and all that, or not a polar bear encounter, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So really cool stuff.
It's definitely a dream destination, and
well, for sure. But I think you guys would fit well in the sailing space if you kind of encroach more, because like I said, I never heard of you until I just kind of wandered onto that video, mostly probably because of a whiskey.
yeah.
But definitely we're kind of running out of time again. Definitely anything you want to plug, like, so you're kind of halfway through this round, the 120 anniversary kind of video series. Is that kind of where you're at?
It's ongoing. It is ongoing. So there's definitely lots more to come out from sailing around the UK. And then we were in dry dock with her when she was getting some planks replaced. So there'll be some stuff from that. So
nice.
It's ongoing. So there'll be more. There'll also be some videos on our YouTube from trips that we're doing this year. So this brigantine in Italy later in the year. And there's a couple of other boats that we might also, if everything works out, we might also be on this year. And one of them is not too dissimilar an adventure to what you were just talking about. So if that happens, that'll be amazing. But it's not confirmed yet. So,
all right.
There'll be more sailing stuff interspersed with some of our other things like hiking in Norway from last year. We've got those videos to put out. More sailing, Bessie, and things like that. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm a subscriber now, so I will make sure to catch all of that.
Well, thank you very much.
So yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on. I'll put all the links and stuff to the show notes, but just to tell everybody, how do they find you?
So it is Going the Whole Hog. So our YouTube handle is Going the Whole Hog, and that's Hogg, Hogg, like our surname. And same for our blog, where we've done some write-ups of these sailing trips in the Caribbean, Bessie Ellen, Flying Dutchman. So goingthewholehog.com, and it's just the same on our socials, Instagram and Facebook, also Going the Whole Hog.
And you have a Patreon too, right?
We do, same name. Yeah,
okay.
It's a small one.
So what does Bessie Ellen have? I know she's selling merchandise. How do you, if you can't go on a trip, how do you support her project?
Yeah, so if you go to bessie-ellen.com, and then there's the shop link there. So we basically, we sell that merchandise for her, and all the proceeds are going straight to Bessie Ellen and supporting her ongoing maintenance and so on. So you can get t-shirts and mugs and tote bags and everything. So you can support Bessie Ellen through that. And we set up a Patreon for Bessie Ellen as well. So again, all of that is supporting her. So Bessie Ellen Patreon.
And you can find that in Patreon or through our website.
Through our website. All right. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for taking a big chunk of it in the middle of the day for talking to me.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot.
If you, like I said, indoctrinate yourself into the sailing world, we'll definitely appreciate it. If you ever find yourself coming to the Chesapeake Bay,
absolutely.
let me know. You know what I mean? There's a big sailboat show every October in Annapolis. All the YouTubers come together. It's kind of crazy, actually. Le Vagabond was there 1 or 2 years. They actually picked up the girl from Sweden, the activist.
Oh,
Greta Thunberg.
I think they picked her up there or dropped her off there in that area, kind of on one. They brought her across, kind of thing. So there's all kinds of people there. So think about coming for that. Write a book. Write a book. You can sell a book. There you go. All right. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And like I said, I'll put everything in the show notes. And I want everybody to go out there right now, get on YouTube, and find Going the Whole Hog and immerse yourself in sailing in Scotland. You know what I mean? It's pretty incredible. All right. Thank you guys. Take care.
Cheers.
Yep. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to this episode of the Shooting the Breeze Sailing Podcast, brought to you by theescapepods.com. I really hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, make sure you leave a review, like and share, and tell all of your sailing friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast aggregator. If you would like to support the show, you can become a patron over at www.patreon.com/Jeffrey Wettig. If you pledge $2 a show or more, I'll be sure to send you a great Sail On t-shirt. For show notes, links, photos, social media, and more, head over to our website, www.theescapepods.com. While there, stop by our links and affiliates page for links to our friends and other great sailing media that we enjoy. You can also purchase sailing vocabulary lessons from Franz from over at the Sailing in the Mediterranean and Beyond podcast. The intro music is a song called Never Tell, done by yours truly, an old friend of mine, Greg Young. He was the drummer in an early 90s hardcore band I managed called The Incoherents. You can find them on iTunes, Amazon, and other music sharing sites. If you would like a copy of that song, you will have to email me. Break music is a song called Wild Winds of Misfortune, written by Leo DeSanto of the Lancaster, PA-based band Vinegar Creek Constituency, and is used by permission. The song is performed by Lancaster, PA-based Celtic rock band and friends of mine, the Ogham Stones. The music for this call to action is a live cover of The Wild Rover, as performed by the Ogham Stones at McCleary's Pub in Marietta, Pennsylvania, back in 2014. If you have questions or comments, or you have show ideas, make sure to write us at theescapepods@gmail.com. Sail on, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Hi, my name is Molly Winans from Spin Sheet Magazine, and you are listening to Shootin' the Breeze from theescapepods.com.
This is Captain Jeffrey Wedding.
And Jeffrey's better half, Nora Segel-Wedding.
And Chris Smoker.
You're listening to the Shooting the Breeze podcast on theescapepods.com. Sail on, brother.